Hello and welcome back. So I'm going to talk about Osteodouce. While I took my classes, my homeworks with the National Academy of Osteopathy, there was a small module on somato-emotional release or emotions connected to the spine. And there was a chart. And the chart had not how I know it, like the organs connected to the spinal nerves, but it had the vertebrae and the psycho-spiritual connection. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting chart. So I printed it out. I'm like, I wonder what that is about. I need to study this. This is interesting. So I have to just mention briefly, like maybe a year or so before I found this, I had read somewhere that there's an osteopath, so a DO in New York, who treats his patients without touching them. So he sits in one corner of the room, they're laying on the table, and he does whatever he does. And I'm like, huh. Well, here I am. I have been attuned to Reiki all levels, and I'm like, yeah, okay, well, whatever. And like I mentioned before in some of the first videos, how I studied like energy medicine and everything else, and I'm like, so I started mocking it. I'm like, yeah, when I retire, I'm probably also just gonna sit in the corner and just treat everybody without touching them. So finding this chart, I started doing some more research. So I came across Osteodouce, which means gentle osteo. And there was this French Swiss Alps gentleman who created this curriculum, and now you have the French, and the French don't teach in English usually, except for Dr. Barral. I mean, those who are teaching internationally, but usually to find a French practitioner, even the Poyet technique, I can't find a book. Everything is in French. I don't speak French. Osteodouce, everything is in French. I can't find it. So, lucky me, I found a French osteopath who lives in Bali and who teaches it. He was one of the original students of Jackie, who created the Osteodouce, and he taught it via Skype or Zoom, Skype, whatever, online. And since I have the anatomical knowledge, I didn't really need to study the anatomy that much. I had the energy work knowledge, so I was curious and I signed up. And I'm just going to read real quick what Osteodouce is about. So it is not really considered osteopathy, but it is an adaptation of ideas and concepts of osteopathy. And like I mentioned with Dr. Chikli's embryological planes of fusion, that's actually what it works with, only without touching. So the person is on the table and I'm sitting behind the person. I have adapted it a little bit to my liking. Again, I made everything I've studied my own because it has to integrate with who I am as a person. And so, and again, Osteodouce is an energetic harmonization obtained via observing the body parts through great attention by maintaining neutrality. And again, that's why I said I'm neutral. I don't judge, even though it might look, or I laugh about certain things. But in the end, it's like, wow, this is just, okay, let's just see what's going to happen. Just always stay neutral. That's also what Dr. Aplischer teaches, or even Chikli. That's all of it's about. It's like, know your anatomy, but know how to stay neutral. Because if you're doing and if you're thinking, so when I hear people, oh, muscle testing and this, I'm like, even with the Reiki, I'm like, I have to think about a symbol to treat. I'm like, that's too much. That's too much doing. I just want to see what is happening. So again, I really enjoy this training, and I integrated most of the time, especially for adults, in every session. I don't really care if you believe it or not, because we're not in the church. There's nothing to believe. I'm just going to do it. I have to clear out certain things, and it just helps me to then physically adjust and release certain things so much better. So that's Osteodouce. I trained with the French osteopath. I also have to say, when I started treating myself, because I can treat myself, I don't have to touch, I can just scan my legs. So when I did my feet and legs, I knocked myself out so bad. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was throwing up. I hardly ever throw up. It's like I don't like throwing up. It's just not my thing. I was throwing up. I was in a haze for 2 weeks. I just couldn't get myself out of it. Again, I contacted my physician, which I'm going to talk about in the future, like everything after 2016. So again, since this was in 2020, I think, 2019, 2020, before COVID. And he created a homeopathic tincture for me. There was a certain amount I had to take, and I'm like, oh, I got it right away. There was a whole combination. I had read a book on the Tanya, which is a Jewish Hasidic book on the lessons of the Tanya. So I read that. I had discovered, oh, my maiden name is kind of like a Jewish first name. And what is the Jewish story here? But again, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later. So I treated my leg, and that night I had this big release, and I was in a haze. But my physician, he created a homeopathic tincture for me. I had to take a bath in it, and I took it, and I'm like, oh my God, boop! It took me out of it. So grateful for my physician, because without him, I would not be the person I am today. I would not be the practitioner. I would not be able to hold that frequency, because anytime I would study something new and change my frequency and release something, I would get sicklish, which makes sense because I had to release something. So again, that's my Osteodouce training. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those things in the future. Thank you for listening.